for this little webcast, we're going to have the chat open for people to put in questions as we go. And hopefully by the end of the session, we'll have a few minutes left over to be able to answer some of those questions. So specifically, we're going to be looking at how BIM 360 works with Civil3D. Connected delivery of your projects in the current climate. That also includes working remotely, which is what a lot of people are looking for at the moment. So going through, just a little description there of what A2K does. I'll just leave that up for a few minutes for those who may not have seen that before. We do a lot more than just training sessions. And if you're wanting to take us up on some of the other things that we offer, just give your local A2K office a call. It's a little description of me, and that's me in the top corner. I've been doing this job, training and supporting the Autodesk civil products here in this part of the world for the last 13 years or so. Did a number of other things before that. So we're looking at collaboration in the architecture, engineering and construction industry, to which the civil components of the Autodesk products have really only recently been given access or started to be integrated into. The first part here, acceleration of BIM adoption. There's a lot of clients and large companies requiring the adoption of BIM these days, even if they don't quite fully understand what it means. And so that's part of the process that we're starting to enter into with the civil tools. More collaborative project delivery methods. So there's more companies wanting to work together and find ways to make that happen. And also the second point over here, if I bring up my little marker here, more distributed and diverse project teams. So project teams are obviously becoming much more distributed around various countries and also around the planet, and also with the current work at home environment. And finally, what I've been talking about a moment ago is that we now have the ability to connect through the cloud with the AEC processes. So this little diagram is actually for a building construction project. However, the same sorts of things do apply to the civil industry. So instead of the architecture firm down here, there might be the surveyor, has their information. The engineer over here wants to do their project design. You've got the general contractor that actually gets the thing built, and you get the end result. And we're trying in the middle here to coordinate all the data and everything else from all of those different components together in one common location. So it is still a challenge, but the Autodesk tools are, and specifically BIM 360, are doing a lot to address that. So current general file sharing tools that are out there are really not built for the type of design data that our industry uses. So we've got SharePoint, difficult to set up, network drives on a network system, difficult to share. Basic cloud storage, again, not built for our design types generally, and you've got niche solutions like or specific point solutions tend to be so niche that it's hard to integrate with other solutions and other ways that people want to work with it as well. So having a look at the BIM 360 environment, so you can bring through all sorts of different file formats into it. And if I just expand it right out here, it's broken down into various components. Now this is what we've actually got access to and use for the civil side of things at the moment. On the Revit side of things, we've got a lot more. We can go through and add in all these other components. Now, I'm assuming that eventually we will be getting integration into those other components. However, for the moment, we're just starting off. This is the civil industry is getting access to the design and the docs part. Specifically, we will, in order to use these things that I'll be showing you in just a moment, we will need the design license. That gives you access to docs, but docs by itself will not do all of the things that I'm about to be showing you. So design is what we'll be using. That gives you these functions here, which the most important part, the bit that we're going to be using, collaboration for Civil3D. It also gives you the stuff underneath here as well. So this document management, the docs comes through, and you get some project setup and analytics and the administration side of things too. And I'll be showing you a lot of that. So let's go and have a look at it. Let's have a look at what we're talking about with BIM 360, specifically the docs, and once you get your design license. So you'll be able to publish your files up to there. You'll be able to share those files. So there is permissions. We'll talk about that in a moment. You've got a view capability. So people that don't have Civil3D, don't have InfraWorks, don't have Revit, can actually view all those files through their browser. And that also allows you to take it off-site. You can obviously, well, not obviously, but there's an app for your phone and your tablets. So you can actually take that data and view it off-site, even though it's residing up in the cloud. Furthermore, you can communicate or use BIM 360 to communicate issues. In that you can log those, they're all recorded up on BIM 360, and emails get sent out to various people. Once they're resolved, they get logged as resolved, and they're all kept within the project structure up on BIM 360. So to have a little bit of a closer look at what it looks like, this is the web viewer into BIM 360. So when you log in through your browser, this is what you'll see, and there's the repository for all your files. In this case, they're Revit files, but the same thing works with drawings. In fact, it works with documents, docs, your XSL, Excel files, or anything can be stored up there. Just plain text files, that's not a problem. Anything can go up there, but specifically it is made for the Autodesk drawing and model files to be stored up there, because those can actually be viewed. And they're all in a single location, so there's no duplication. Everybody on that particular project, whether they're from your company or another company, if they've been invited, can access them from the same one place. Folder permissions. So these different folders down the side here all have various permissions that can be assigned to them. So who has access to what folder and what level of access they have. You've got view only, you've got update only, you've got view and download, and then upload them again, which is to update. And the editor has full control over the folder and can create and delete folders and things like that. If you want full access to somebody, and it's granted username by username. Very, very useful. So you've got full control of who can actually see your data. In terms of where this data is, it's on the Autodesk servers, which are part of the Amazon server system in the States. So the security is pretty good. Well, it's actually very good, being the Amazon server system. There are replicated, or I should say, cache files kept in various other places by the Autodesk system, but the actual full documents, the full information is actually on the server in the States under the Amazon system. And also, it also tracks versioning. So each of these files that we're talking about here, it tracks the versions of each file. You can have a look at each one. Even though you've moved on to version 27, you can go back to version 1 and version 2. You can compare those together to see what the changes were. You've been given the name of the person that uploaded that file, what they changed it, when they changed it to the next version. And you can actually select one of those and go back to that. So you can select it and say, actually, we've got to version 2, but actually that's wrong. There's an error in it. We want to go back to version 1. You can select version 1 and make that the current one instead. And so so nothing's lost. It's all actually kept up there in the BIM 360 document management system. So the way Autodesk at the moment are visualizing that this would be used in the civil environment would be something like this. So your surveyor, your roadway designer, engineering technician, and your management would all have access to those folders based on the permission levels they've been given and what folders they've actually had set up for them. So it all gets, it's no set system. You make up your own folders. So the surveyor creates a surface there and makes data shortcuts. So the data shortcut to that would be made, all kept up on BIM 360, so that all works. And then those data shortcuts are shared with the other next people that need to use them. So the roadway designer comes along, takes that data shortcut that the surveyor's made, does their corridor and design work on it, and makes data shortcuts of that information as well. Then the drafty engineering technician comes along, takes all of those data shortcuts, that one, and that one, all 3 of them together, or as many as there are, and they're all being stored up on the cloud, and creates all the section sheets and cross sections and does all the AutoCAD drafting, all that sort of stuff, and posts those drawings up on BIM 360. Then whoever is doing the project or overseeing the project or doing the QA and sign-off, QC, does not actually need Civil3D or AutoCAD or anything else. They can actually go directly through their browser, and in the browser you can have a look at all of these documents above that they've got access to. They can do all the inspection and coordination side of things and check that it's up to drawing standards, and then do the markups and also assign issues to the appropriate people. So markup, have a look at and just see what they look like. But the assigning issues, the people that they're assigned to, specific people, these people up back here that we're making the project, get emails sent to them and tell them about the issues and show them where to look for them. So it's a whole complete setup made to make a project work in the cloud. So in terms of comparing drawings, I was saying that you can compare version 2 versus version 3, and it can highlight actually the differences between the 2 drawings, similar to what AutoCAD has built into it, but this is all on the cloud, so it's all done through a browser, so you don't need those products to be able to do it. You just need access to the folders. And it's all through your browser. Same thing with the markups, it's running through your browser. In this case, that's not a civil drawing, but it's an architectural, doesn't matter. Any drawings that are up there can be marked up, and it's simply the usual sort of hatching, markup clouds and things like that, put some text on there. But it all gets recorded actually in BIM 360 and stays there. And so once these things are currently open, these markups, once they've been resolved, the person with the appropriate level of control, level of access, can set those to be resolved, and they will be taken out of the open list. They will stay up there though. Further, what you can see here is InfraWorks. So InfraWorks models can be up there as well. And the same things, the markups can be done, and the issues. Now the issues are a little bit more in detail, perhaps than a markup, but a similar sort of idea, in that you can select a point in the model, mark that as an issue. You can put in the description of what it's all about, who you've assigned it to, and a whole bunch of other details go into here. That's the one that sends out an email to the person that's been assigned to. You can put a date for resolution, and you can take photos and things and add those in, and links into the issue. And again, if you've got permissions to do so, you can, once it's been resolved or it's in progress, you can change the the current level of the current you know, what do we call that level of completion. And as you can see, you've got attachments and it locks the activity, who's been doing what on that as well. So issues, very good. And it's all stored up in the BIM 360 platform. And it is not deleted, it's not lost. So further up and above and over that is the fact that if you've got Office 365, in many cases, you'll be able to actually log in or to open these files directly through your browser. So you'll be able to go through your browser and change Word documents, Excel documents, and PowerPoint files if they're up there. Can all be changed without having to download them at all. You can do it all up through your browser, up in BIM 360. So again, good for project management. You'll also have a desktop connector. Now, this is necessary, and it replicates the project file structure onto your local machine. So there's does not download them all. It just keeps them all there, and if you pick on one of these, it then will download it for you. So it doesn't take up huge amounts of rooms on your machine, only for what you're currently working on. So that's the desktop connector. If you want it, it's stored on the Autodesk website. Just Google search for desktop connector download Autodesk, and you'll find it. And simply you go and do that. And what it simply does is takes your project structure that's in BIM 360 here, and you'll get it replicated on as files, or sorry, folders and files on your machine. And it'll be under the shared folders for BIM 360 in your Windows Explorer. All very easy to use. You can take folders and documents off your machine and just drag and drop them into these folders, into these replicated folders, and that will actually put them straight up there onto to make it easier for you can if you want to. So on Civil3D, once you've got the desktop connector loaded, you will find that you'll get access to BIM 360 on the start page of Civil3D, and that will be looking at those replicated folders, and you can just dive into it, as many of those as you want, as far down into those as you want, and open whichever drawings you want, and they'll just open directly without having to do anything else. Better than that, or further to that, is the fact that when you do open it, everybody else will have it locked. So it will stop anybody else up on the web or anywhere else on the planet, for instance, from being able to open that file while you're still using it. Now, on a network system, it does that automatically with those two little files that it saves next to the drawing file to lock it, but this does it now up on the web. And this will only happen with 2020.2 and 2020.3. So this is new stuff, but that's stuff you definitely want to have. Otherwise, you've got to manually lock it on BIM 360. And potentially people could forget to do that. You know, it's a workflow you'd have to do. So this saves that, it locks it and stops anybody else from being able to use it until you save it and close your drawing. Then it releases it for other people to use it. And make sure you're also using the latest desktop connector as well. If it's updated quite often, it's still something continuously developed. All right, so good way to find out who has it as well. It's not just, it'll show who's actually got it, so you can give them a phone call if you need them to release it, if it's been sitting there for 3 days and they've had it open and aren't actually using it. All right. To migrate existing project data onto BIM 360, it's not really been set up for this workflow. The way it's been set up is to actually start a new project up on BIM 360 and then continue using it from there and building on it. However, it is possible to do it, to transfer your project files up onto BIM 360. And in the current climate, that may be something you're wanting to do if you're wanting people to work remotely. If you, again, have a look in the Autodesk Knowledge Network here, a Google search will find it. It tells you, or gives you a lot of tips and tricks of what you need to do to make sure it works. The biggest issue or thing you'd need to get around is this 260 characters for the address of the folder location. So there is a limit to that. And if you're trying to transfer up very large numbers of nested folders, you might need to take that project, move it somewhere on the, or copy it ideally, to somewhere on the server that has is closer to the root of the drive, and then you'd be able to copy it up. It may take quite some time, depending on how big it is, your project. And you want XREFs to be set by relative path, which they are by default, but if you've changed it, you'd want to put it back, and the overlay type if possible, so it doesn't go searching for lots of nested XREFs. There are a number of other rules as well, so if you're wanting to do that, I'd definitely go and have a look at this page on the Autodesk Knowledge Network that tells you about migrating Civil 3D projects. So this is the bit about the XREFs. They want to be, if possible, overlay. Ideally, yes, but most definitely the save path wants to be relative. Then they'll go up to BIM 360 and they will all keep working, which is what you want. Further, if you drag up a design drawing that has XREFs, it will actually grab all the nested or the required XREFs and pull them up at the same time. So that's actually really good to do. So using the desktop connector, I've been doing experimentation on my own machine with just a very simple project structure, dragging and dropping it up into my synced folders. So my BIM 360 synced folders here on my own machine. So that's my connector, desktop connector. Now, for most people, you're going to be able to just simply select all of those files all at once, drag and drop them up into there, and it will replicate them. My machine doesn't want to do that. I think it's an issue I have with my Windows Explorer, Explorer.exe, because that throws issues on my machine every now and again, little messages. And I think that's what was stopping it on my machine. But in my particular case, and if you do have the same thing, and perhaps even if you do have a much harder or more complicated folder structure, what I found is what I had to do, it was take the base information. So I took the DREF folders first and copied that up one at a time. Then I did the survey information, I think it was, took that up next. Then the XREF information, took that up. And finally, took the design drawings that rely on all of that information, took those up last. Now, in the design drawing, those I have, I tried it with a nested folder in there, that works fine. But in terms of taking up the information, that's what I had to found I had to do on my particular machine. When things are uploading, you get this little dot next to your desktop connector down the bottom here. And there's a pending actions component to that, and you can see what it's actually doing at the time, and it gives that these running tasks are the ones that are being shown down here, and it'll tell you as it ticks off each one of those. So data shortcuts, as I said, the XREFs will work straight away. Data shortcuts, you need to repath the working folder, so down in here. So you would need to actually open up each drawing file that's using data shortcuts and repath them. It doesn't happen automatically. Again, this is because the system is not set up really for taking existing projects and putting it up there. It can be done though. You need to do this once and then it will be set up and we'll all be working on BIM 360. So what you would do is take the working folder, you would path it to your DREFs in your synced folders, replicated folders on your machine, which is in the BIM 360 drive here. So it would have been in the DREF folders on your network drive. You just repath that, find the working folder up here, and if there's only one project in there, it'll automatically repath that project now to your BIM 360 synced drives. You would also need to associate the drawing to that once it's been sunk, and then you just close that drawing and do it for the next one. So somebody would need to go through that process. However, once it's been done, it's set up for everybody. And then once you've done that, the Synchronise works as per usual. If you change the drawings up on BIM 360, it will synchronise the other drawings up on BIM 360, working through the DREF folder, also on BIM 360. So it does need to all be up there. You can't do a mixed system. You can't have your drawings, for instance, down on your local network and the Data Shortcut folder up on BIM 360. That doesn't work. You need to have everything up on BIM 360 or everything down on your network, one or the other. It won't mix it. Finally, if we're looking at extra functionality, you may, if you do have access to the BIM 360 folders, which you would if you've set up the rest of the system, on Civil3D itself, you've got this Collaborate tab and this function here, Publish Surfaces. This will take a Civil3D surface, as shown down here, and publish it up for consumption by Revit. Up here, that's Revit project in the middle there in a 3D view. And as you can see, it is keeping the triangulation the same as it was in Civil3D, which has always been a problem in Revit. They've been working on this for the last couple of years. It's working very well now, as you can see by the, this is turned around obviously, about 180 degrees from the civil view, but you can see we've got a retaining wall type surface modeled there. And you're getting the same thing happening here in Revit without the triangulation going haywire. Same thing with your curbs and everything else. The triangulation is on it, which is excellent. Similarly, you can take the Revit model and you can display it down in here in your civil model. In this case, I've done that as an XREF to a Navisworks NWC file, which is a very, very small, lightweight file, but it means you can see the 3D model from the Revit user in your own Civil3D drawing without making the Civil3D drawing ridiculously slow. It's just an XREF of a very small file type, but you can then do your coordination with pipes and things. What you can also do is this is logging an issue through BIM 360. So all of this is being stored up in BIM 360 ideally, the Revit model and the civil model. And then you can, this is actually opening the Civil 3D model in a 3D view inside BIM 360. And then you can log your issues and assign those issues to various designers to go and resolve before the drawings go out. So in a nutshell, very quick run over there of what we can currently do with BIM 360 in the Autodesk Civil world. So that takes us on to just the last couple of minutes. Well, actually, I think that's about 1 minute left. Just going to look for any questions here at the moment, if anybody has put anything in while we've been doing it. I just see a question about, well, there was a question about where the information was stored, but I must have been before I answered that. Yeah, it's the up on the Autodesk servers is the actual base information, the full files, and that's within the Amazon server suite. Well, thank you for your time there. We will be doing some instructor-led sessions tomorrow on Wednesday, another one on Friday. Each one of these will be about 1.5 hours long, I would guess, approximately. And that'll actually be showing you the actual process. So I'll be running through that and showing you what it looks like and doing it on your screens. So if you want to put your name down for that and sign up for it, you can go to the A2K Technologies and then /BIM360 web location. But probably the easier way is actually just to contact your A2K account manager, because that in fact just takes you to a link where you can contact somebody from A2K. So your local office, give them a call, ask, get your account manager and ask them to sign you up for the instructor-led training. And we've got similar events to this being run this week for BIM 360 and Revit and AutoCAD as well. So you can go and have a look at those on the A2K website if you want to see what else is being run this week, if you would like to learn more about those. Again, thank you for your time, and I hope this has been useful to you.